G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. How are you? How are you? How am I? Just getting organised on this Saturday morning in Sydney, Australia. Let me just wipe my camera. That's a great start, isn't it? But it's better than having a fuzzy fog to look at the whole video. So, welcome. What is it about a drawing channel that makes it worth watching? What is it about a drawing channel that perhaps gives you the best chance for the time and effort you commit to watching it to improve? That's why we put our time into it. How am I today? I'm freshly awake, freshly had a shower, got my first cup of coffee, and I'm actually talking out loud for the first time. If I sound a bit croaky today, my wife has gone away for the weekend, and so it's just me here. So, yeah, that's interesting. I got a lot of channel things done yesterday because of that. Hi there, Lucas. Yeah. So I thought this morning, or in this video, we'll look at what makes a good drawing channel. And I've sort of framed it. I had a few different angles for thinking about this. You know, 10 things we don't know about drawing channels when we watch them, but I smoothed it around to really 10 questions to ask, 10 things to think about when we consider, is this a good channel for me? Because if we I think it is helpful to settle on a number of channels, as in just a few, when we're trying to learn not just drawing but any skill, because most channels come with one voice. Now, there are channels that have lots of different contributors, and so lots of different voices come through those, and that's fine. But most channels have the one creator, and they have the one mind and the one way of doing things in terms of organizing the channel. And so I think it is very helpful to actually not just thinking that, oh, well, if they're on a channel, they're going to be all much of a muchness. No, different voices will be saying more consistent or more helpful things, or simply more things that are relevant or perhaps not relevant to me and my drawing aims, to how I want my drawings to look. And so it's important to be active in assessing, in evaluating what's coming across to me, what's being fed into my learning experience about drawing from the channels that I'm watching. And so I've got sort of 10 questions to ask. I think I've got 11 questions to ask now, and I'll probably end up asking closer to 20 by the end of it, because, as I think of them, I'll just keep adding answers. And I imagine that, I hope anyway, I'll get a few questions on the chat as well. So here's one. I want to ask a question. Is it good to have an obsession with art? My autism, I'd love to do the most complex things, and it's really helped my work. Look, I mean, I don't know, it depends what you mean by obsession. I mean, I generally try and avoid labels on who we are. We all have different personalities, and in a way, right in this moment, wherever those personalities have come from and however they're expressed, it is what it is. I am what I am right now, and therefore the things I do right now, it's important for me to make, I think, the most helpful choices, but also the choices that will take me where I'm wanting to go. So I wouldn't worry about the autism at all. I'd be asking, what would I like to do, and what do I feel is going to be helpful for me? And presumably, if it's helpful for my art, it'll be helpful for me. So I'd be thinking along those terms. I think it's hard to become really good at anything without a bit of an obsession. Um, Obsessive personalities can be a bit tiring for the people around us, but usually most people who do have success in anything, and I don't mean success necessarily fame or money, but simply to see change, to see improvement, you have to have a focus and you have to put effort. Very few good things, except maybe lotteries, lottery winnings, come by chance. there is effort and concentration and focus and all of those things, commitment, investment, to see something good happen for most of us most of the time. So just go with it. And if things are helping your work, and I presume you mean your artwork, great. Keep going. Keep going. Good morning, Carmel. Technical perspective. Well, that's good because yeah, technical perspective. That's very good. Yeah, if we can enjoy the tough things, all the better. Early today, yes, Oz, I am. It's probably because my wife's not here, and I woke up in bed and thought, oh well, I could just lie here. I could jump up and do something. Plus, I have to go out. I think mid morning. So I thought I'd do this. Diagnosed with autism at 65. Yeah. I'm going to keep my mouth shut there about about me. But I suspect I've at least got 1 foot in the shallow end of the pool, and maybe a lot more. As I said, we are who we are. And if I don't like how I am, I can make effort to change. Change is possible. But I start where I start right now, today, and in a sense, every day we start. So, okay, let's no more the less technical / advanced. Good, excellent. Okay, well, let's start the questions. What is it? Or hang on, how was I phrasing this video? 10 questions we should ask. And the first question, and this isn't actually one of the 10 of them, but I think it's a really good starting point, and it's probably the best first question to ask. So I thought I'd put this first, even though I only thought of it as I was tapping the metadata into the laptop to set this up. And that is, what are other people saying about the channel? And by other people, I mean the people who've watched the same sorts of videos on the channel that I'm going to watch. So read the reviews, and by the reviews I just mean comments. And I guess there'll be a lot of comments that perhaps are more relevant to the topic of the video than perhaps comments about the channel as a whole. But you shouldn't have to. If it's a good channel, you won't have to read far to get comments that reflect on the channel as a whole, and presumably from people, or often at least from people who've watched more than just that one video. And so get a sense of the enthusiasm, any clues they give, the depth on the channel, and most importantly, the impact the channel's video contents have had on the person's work. I mean, the person may be engaging and entertaining and warm and charming and all that, but in a sense, if I was watching the channel, I'd listen to it, cranky I'll get to if they were good, and if they're brusque and rather harsh, style meant I saw my drawings improve, but it all depends what we're wanting and what package, in a sense, we want from the channel, and the presenter and their personality is part of that package, and that may be important for me but not for you, or for you but not for me. Or it may be the content, how easy it is to understand, how appropriately suited it is for where I'm at, all those things. And some of those things we only can tell by trying, so by watching some videos and seeing. Sorry, I just read a question and now I'm totally, my mind seems I need to take one thing at a time. But I think I've covered that. Read the comments, and line them up with what you're looking for, and just get a feel for how enthusiastic they are, and particularly read ones from people who seem to have been watching the channel more than just that one video. My King Charles mug. Let me start drawing my own perspective on art. I actually painted for 10 years before I drew. I mean, every kid draws, and I did art at school. And then I spent 30 years basically not doing anything except making excuses and wish I could start. I started painting at 50, and I was painting Australian tree canopies, and you can see some glimpses out of the corner there of a few sorts of things I painted. Mm. Um, and and then I went on an overseas holiday in 2006, and I did a little bit of drawing of buildings on that because I'd seen an artist I was following. I'd seen a little sketchbook he took on a European holiday in the 1950s, I think it was, Lloyd Rees, and I thought, oh, okay, that looks interesting. And so I just did a little bit of that, and then of course I did nothing for another 15 years. So it was 2018. 2018, I went to Europe again and took a sketchbook, and I drew Notre Dame with my daughter, who is an artist as well. And I loved it, and I loved the experience. And I did a bit more that trip. And when I came back to Australia, I had all these paintings I had to finish for an exhibition. But I really wanted to draw, and I began doing the drawings that, if you know my Instagram channel, you'll have seen there. And they're not freehand ink. I 4x4 grid on the paper, pencil under drawing, and then ink and ink wash over the top, or sketch marker wash, ink wash over the top. And I really enjoyed that. But then I decided I had some issues with perfectionism, and I don't know, I just felt like a change and something a bit faster than those 6-hour drawings and a bit looser. And I decided to try freehand ink drawing, particularly in preparation for another trip to Europe we had planned in 2020, which finished up getting cancelled because of COVID. But I wanted to do some freehand ink sketching in the streets, not pencil sketching. And I was very hung up on using erasers and things. And so I thought, look, if I just need to do some directly in ink and forget about mistakes and just like develop whatever skills you need to develop to be able to do that. And I just felt like I needed a real change and a fresh wind to kind of blow through my head and my process, to really jumpstart something different. And so I began to draw freehand without ink, and I didn't have any material. I didn't follow anything. The method I teach, the understanding I have now, is simply the one that worked for me. So I don't say it's going to work for anyone else, but it's what I know. It's worked for me. I give it to you, and if any part of it's helpful, good luck to you. And if not, it may help you focus on what will be more successful for you. So really, the freehand ink drawing, the sorts of things you see me do on my videos, which are all freehand ink drawings. I've been doing that since 1921. 1921. Goodness, I'm an old man, aren't I? 2021. So yeah. Okay. Bad practice. Hey, Steve, I just found your channel. I've been binging your videos, but such an inspiration in my life in a very stressful way. Well, thank you. That's great to hear. Art can be great in stressful moments. It can just drop us into another world for a few minutes or a few hours. So that's great to hear that it's doing that. And yeah. I mean, videos that encourage us to push on, encourage us to try, are good videos, regardless of whose channel they are. Okay. What are some of the questions we need to ask of a channel? Let me see. What's the first one on my list? Okay, here's a good one. Are they a good teacher? Now, this probably won't be super, this probably won't be super obvious necessarily from one video, but certainly after a few videos, you should get a feel for this. Are they a good teacher? Think back to high school. Not every teacher was the same. And some teachers you look forward to, and some you didn't look forward to. Some classes, some lessons you look forward to, and some you didn't. And, there are reasons besides the teacher for that. But think back to the classes where you learned well. The classes where you learned well. What was it about the teacher that meant you learned well? In my high school experience, I enjoyed the humanities, the reading, the writing, the essays. I, I found essays sort of quite fun to write, but for me, maths was the subject that was out on left field. Didn't enjoy maths. It didn't come as easily. Numbers weren't my friends, the way words were, and but one of the classes I still enjoyed was maths, and that was because of the teacher. She just had a way of making the class, I don't know, feel feel achievable. I mean, the class it was a good experience, and I felt I still learned. And it wasn't the fact that in senior years I was sitting next to the girl who is now my wife, but um, but even though the subject wasn't the subject that most naturally came to me, she was a good teacher. She wasn't razzmatazz. She was a good teacher, and I felt I learned things. So that's it's an important question to ask. Are they a good teacher? And in the end, the good teacher for me is the teacher who I learn from. And again, we can't necessarily make that judgment about a whole channel from just one video, but it's a question to be asking in the back of our head. So that's the first one. Um, the second question to ask is, what sort of editing happens? Now, this is a bit of a behind the stage. I love maths and art. Yeah. In fact, I hear that that pure mathematics is closer to art than anything else. That art and pure mathematics kind of combine. And I had a mathematician once sort of explain to me why that's the case, and I couldn't possibly tell it again. But when he explained it, it actually made a lot of sense. So maybe that's maybe that's why maybe something in me was sensing that back in high school days. Um, but yeah, so understand that videos are edited and that things are left out, that a lot can be left out. And we don't know what we don't know. And I'll probably end up saying that phrase a few times with these. We don't know what we don't know about what's been edited out. And sometimes what's been edited out is a lot of the story of the process, a lot of the way it really happened. Now, I don't want to start suggesting that channel creators are being nefarious or deceitful or anything like that. But we all on a good day want a good video, and we want something that's going to be attractive, that's going to pace well. We don't want a video to take you know 60 minutes. No one's going to watch a 60-minute drawing video, or not enough people to make it worthwhile, the time in making and posting and all of that. So what and so we edit things out, and we tighten things, we change the speed. I'll talk about that in a minute. But here are some of the things that we may not know. Um, Let me see. Firstly, we don't know the pauses unless they're left in, or we don't know the pauses unless they're left in with the real time. And sometimes when drawing happens, we it's helpful to understand when the artist is stopping and thinking and watching. And I think if you were to stand next to me and watch me draw, you would be you would notice the times I'm not drawing, because they're the times I'm thinking. They're the times I'm observing and I'm thinking and I'm wondering, do I get a bit of paper and just rough up some marks to see if this is going to work or not? I mean, if you watch my videos and you know my process, you'll know that before I start any video, I do that. I get a scrap of paper, and I'm always surrounded by these scraps of paper. This is what I did for yesterday's video about edges. This was my experimenting to see if what I'm thinking of doing is going to work or not. That's part of my process. And I do this with whatever I think is either the key graphic element of that particular video, the focus, or a part that I think, I'm not so sure if the marks I have in my head are going to work, either because it's not a very common subject, or whatever. And so I play around with the marks for 2 or 3 minutes and just get a feel. And if I'm not happy with the result, then I'll do that for a bit longer. Now, I don't show you this every video. Let me know if you'd like me to just show you at some point what I scrapped with, but I do this before every video. But if you didn't know I did it, then you may think everything just comes to me more easily, more directly, and more immediately, that somehow just naturally the pen kind of, self-propelling pen, and it just decides everything. No, it's from careful choice. And before I can do this, I have to think in my head, now what marks are going to create the edges? And before I can do the edges, before I can do that, I've got to think, well, what is it about this and how I'm going to represent it to capture a sense of reality, to capture a sense of realism, not to draw realism, but to get the feel of realism. How my mark's going to have to appear on the paper. Is a straight line going to work or not? So I experiment before I start. Now, when you watch my videos, in any given video, you won't necessarily know that I've done this unless I actually mention it in the video, or unless you've watched my videos and here's another one for one of the windows and doors series I have, where I was just playing around with seeing, is that going to work? Is that going to look too messy? Is that hatching right? So I'm just looking at the scraps of paper all around me. And then, sometimes, oh, there you go. That's actually a fountain. This is, I don't know if it's one of the fountains in Trafalgar Square. I was playing around with it, and then I decided I didn't have time to do the drawing, so I haven't done that one. But I was just playing around with the water technique. And of course, this is something we can do just if we have a few minutes as well. And like this drawing, that's a more, I was playing around with the bricks and a few other marks and areas, and that's a lot more than I normally draw. I don't know why I drew that much, but yeah, sometimes I just sort of zone out, and it's like sometimes I've almost half drawn the picture, and I think, gosh, so sometimes what I do is a pretty rough thing, and sometimes it's a little more considered, but yeah. But you don't know that necessarily when you see the video. And so you may think, oh, it just all comes quickly. And gosh, if the artist in the video plays around experiments beforehand, maybe that's something you should know. And it's something that you would find helpful to do. And it's misleading to think that the artist can just do that, because it sets you up to fail or it sets you up to struggle, at least, if you don't see and understand the full process. So obviously an artist can't explain their full process in one 10-12 minute drawing video, but certainly over a series you should start to become aware of a wider context for how things appear. Zoning out is when the self-propelling pen takes over. Yes, and sometimes the pen does nice things, and sometimes it's very badly behaved. How many unsuccessful unpublished works are there in between published videos? Yes. And look, I mean, how many drawings have I done? How many drawings have I done for drawing videos? I have about 1,500 videos, so probably about 1,200 of those at least are drawing videos rather than talking head ones, as I think of them. And I would say, how many drawings have I started and I've abandoned because the drawing's just working out? Maybe 12. So most of mine turn out. That's the good news. I guess I've become pretty good at choosing things that that are within my comfort zone that I can be confident with. But in that 12, there's one or two, I think there's two that I started 3 times before I gave up on. And maybe I was just a bad attitude day, or maybe there was something that I didn't have the time or really did need to somehow get on top of something happening to be able to do. Because I wouldn't start to do a drawing for a video that I didn't feel confident was within my range of experience. But anyway, that's how it is. Here's an important one. And I'll make this quick, but is it really a teaching video or is it really an ad for a course or an ad for a product, an ad for some reason to send money to the creator? There is nothing wrong with making money from your channel. There is nothing wrong with people paying and with my pain or your pain for a service that's worthwhile. So I haven't got a problem with that. The problem is when all the important bits are left out because they want you to buy the course and it's not really clear it's not clear this is an advertisement or a teaser or however we want to say it. But because then you get to the end and you've made this commitment and you don't want to or can't afford to buy a course or buy the product, and you're just left kind of frustrated and without what you need to know, without the key things that you need to know to be at the level that you've just seen. Because the artist, obviously, in doing whatever they did, is using the stuff that's going to be in the course. I mean, that's, I guess, why we have advertising. You know, you're advertising the products available. It's just if you're not clear at the start. And I think we should be clear. We should be able to make we should know what we're watching at the start. If it's an ad for a product, then we should know that at the start. I get very annoyed at advertisements that I think are shows when I start watching them. Yeah. Okay. And tied in with the whole editing thing and that we don't necessarily know what's been taken out or left out, we don't know what's been edited out, and that's one issue. But we also just don't know what's been said because we don't know the material necessarily at the start. And if you've looked at my playlist, and can I recommend, I have 1,500 videos. It's a lot. No one's going to watch all those. But the playlists that I organize them into can help you navigate the content and find the things that you're most interested in, that are most relevant to the subjects or the techniques that are most preoccupying you at the moment, would be most helpful for you. So check out the playlist. But I have a playlist on perspective videos, not on perspective, but on perspective videos. And because I think one of the big problems with perspective is what's not said. And I actually think it's because a lot of perspective videos are made by people who don't understand perspective enough. And they're basically making the perspective video by copying another perspective video because they've noticed how well perspective videos do on YouTube, or some of them do anyway. So they're having a go. And the thing is, so most perspective videos are basically some sort of presentation with a box with a line through it and with vanishing points and 2-point perspective. And you think, yeah, okay, I understand that. Yep, that makes sense. I can see that. And then we go to draw, and then we go to use that, and somehow, like, there may be a few houses that we look at that seem to look, especially box-like houses, that look like that in some way and we can sort of say, oh yeah, the vanishing points are going to be here and here. But we go to a typical streetscape scene and it just makes no sense. We can't work out how to apply it. We can't work out, what do I do? I'm meant to be drawing, like, how do I apply that to this? And the problem is that these videos haven't told us what they haven't told us. So they haven't told us that this is a description of what we see, and that if we draw from life or from photos, if we have good observation, we don't have to think about perspective at all. We just draw what we see. It's not that I have to work out where the angle is. I can see the angle in front of me. I just need to see that and draw that. So I don't need to have any theoretical understanding of perspective if I improve my observation skills and simply draw the angles I see, which is harder to do than it sounds, which explains why a lot of drawings look the way they do. But that's the skill really we should be focusing on, not getting confused with looking at perspective videos that confuse us as to how they're applied to our drawing. Now, if I draw from imagination, it's a lot more helpful to understand the theoretical framework, particularly if I, jump to extreme perspectives and so forth. So in that case, I think we really do need to understand the theory, but we need to understand a lot more than what we see in these oversimplified um, diagrams. And I think the reason that happens is that they were largely created for architects and for drafting purposes, where you are just showcasing one building in isolation on a flat plane. But people have repackaged them for artists without asking, is this what artists, particularly drawing artists, need to know? And they don't say what they don't say. So because they finish and we think, oh, well, I know it. But they don't say, this only works if the ground is flat. It only looks this way if it's a flat plane to the horizon. It only looks this way with everything going to two vanishing points if it's only one building or all the buildings are boxed and they're all parallel or perpendicular to each other. That if the buildings are at angles to each other, we get a lot more vanishing points than this. If the street's curved, we get a lot of vanishing points. If the street goes up and down, we get different vanishing points. There's only one eye level, but we can have 100 vanishing points in a street that has lots of curves that go up and down, and the buildings are positioned not at right angles to each other. So, I have videos that explain all of this. I have videos on when the street curves, when the buildings aren't at right angles, when the street goes up and down, and so forth, about drawing uphill and downhill streetscapes and so forth. So check out my perspective playlist if those are questions that trouble you. But the point is, these videos, I haven't seen one that actually says, but this only works in very limited theoretical conditions. This is overly simplified for life for most circumstances. So, and I've never seen videos except mine that talk about the patterns, the fan shape patterns, and so forth, because I find it far more easier with perspective to understand the patterns that are created, to look for the patterns, and then to sort of draw the patterns in what I do. So, but yes, but anyway, but the point is that the videos don't tell us what they don't tell us, and we need to be aware of that. And the thing that upsets me is what happens more often. Instead of people coming away thinking, that video didn't tell me everything I needed to know, we come away thinking, oh man, I'm just hopeless. I can't understand this. I'm not clever enough to understand perspective. Perspective is really hard, and all of this. No, I've just watched something that hasn't taught me well, hasn't taught me what I was wanting to learn, didn't tell me what it was teaching me, and more importantly, didn't tell me what it wasn't teaching me. I think perspective for artists is really a different topic to perspective for architects and for draftsmen and draftspeople and drafters. What's the word these days? I don't know. Drafting. Let's just use that. But yeah, there's that point. And another question to ask is just the speed of the videos we watch. Where there's a demo, and I think if I'm watching a drawing channel, I want to see drawings happen. Not necessarily every drawing. Sometimes, particularly if there's some specialized ink on paper techniques, then I don't necessarily need to see them being drawn into a whole drawing, although it's probably still helpful to see some drawings, whole drawings, where these techniques are used. But the speed of the video is crucial. Not what it is, but knowing what it is. And I would say, just as a little tip on the side, get to know the cog icon on the screens, around the screens. Right now on my screen, it's in the lower left, but they seem to change with every upgrade of the app, but where they are. But the cog icon, you use that to change the speed of the video you're watching. So as well as the visuals slowing down or speeding up, so will the voiceover. So if you want to hear me sound like a drunken sailor, slow the video down, or you can make me chipmunky by speeding me up, but you'll also slow down or speed up what you see. So if I've doubled the speed of the video, which still I think is a well-paced speed to watch. It's not too fast, but it's not sort of painfully slow either. Um, you need to know that. But it's helpful for 2 or 3 minutes at least of the video to slow the video down to watch me do it at real speed. Now, sometimes if it's a very long video, if it's a drawing that took me an hour, it might be 3 times or 4 times speed. But slowing it down still lets you see closer to the actual drawing time, and it helps you perceive the gaps, the pauses. Now, sometimes I edit the pauses out because there is this pressure with a video. How long is it? And if the tighter the video is, the better it works for the creator, because how much people watch as a percentage of the length of the video is one of the metrics that the algorithm uses to work out whether it's going to show more people this or not. And so if you have an unnecessarily long video that people therefore tire of before they get to the end, it means the part they do watch is a smaller percentage of the overall. So you want to keep it kind of pacing through, particularly the earlier part of the video. So there are these pressures that are simply the nature of the beast of a YouTube channel and the algorithm and how it works. And so, yeah. But we need to be aware of the speed. And so while we're thinking of this, the next point about a channel is, can I see the reference? Where there is a demo, so we're not talking about exercises to draw straight lines or hatching patterns or things like that, but where there is a drawing happening, where there is a demo, can I see the reference? I mean, I really don't. I've never looked at drawing videos to learn to draw myself. So, but I have just sort of looked at them over the few years, 3, 4 years, 3 years, 3.5, 4 years. I don't know. I've been making them, and I'm always amazed when a drawing is being made and we cannot see the reference. So the first question I'm asking myself is, are they making this up or are they using a reference? And of course, maybe there is no reference. But if that's the case, it would be good for them to say that this is from my imagination, because, well, that's, in a sense, that's another skill to drawing from a photo, from a reference. And it would be good to know what skill I'm learning. But more important than that, if they're drawing from a photo, but they haven't told me and they're not showing me the photo that's just off camera, or for all I know, maybe there's another drawing just off camera that they took 12 hours to draw and they're going to copy it now in 10 minutes. But I think that the skill I'm learning in this video is drawing this from nothing, from imagination. And so I'm being misled about what's possible to do the way this person is doing it. And that's not helpful. That's not learning. That may create a impressive video, but in the end, it's about how much I learned from it. So that's a problem when I can't see the reference, because when I can see the reference, I get everything I can see as well as what the person says. Now, an artist should be giving a voiceover that's explaining something about the process and the choices and why the ink is appearing the way it's appearing. And that's very directly inputting and I hope helpful. But as well as that, if I can see the reference, then I can see as well whatever I can see. And if there are things that particularly trouble me or interest me, if I'm thinking at the start, gosh, I look at this photo and I'm thinking, how are they going to draw the foliage in that far background? Because that's what I always mess up in my drawings. That never looks right. Or, gosh, how are the cobblestones in the front going to be drawn? Now, when that actually happens in the drawing, I may not, the artist may not be actually talking about that. They may still be finishing a point from something they're already doing. I mean, I certainly know that pressure when you're doing the voiceover, but if I can see the cobblestone or the far foliage, I can see the marks they make to create the effect. And I can work out whether I think it's successful or not so successful, whether, hey, that's just what I've been looking for, or, yeah, okay, I want to avoid that as well. But I can't make those choices. I can't learn fully unless I see their starting point, unless I see what they're trying to do. Then I can work out, is this successful? Is this the translation of this to this that I'm wanting to learn? Because the next point, and this one's probably the most important point, and I bang on about this quite a bit lately because I'm more and more convinced this is crucial to our drawing process, but therefore our drawing learning, and therefore to the drawing videos we watch, the drawing books that we read, the drawing courses that we might go to. And that's developing an understanding of our drawing process. And I say art drawing process because there is no one drawing process. There are as many drawing processes as there are people holding a pen in their hand or whatever we put marks on the surface with. We won't even say paper. But we need one because it's my understanding of what I'm doing that guides me, that gives me a consistency in the marks I make, the way I make them, and what I make from them, how they all package together at the end of the art session to produce the artwork, using artwork in inverted commas. That all comes from my understanding of a drawing process. And so, and again, an artist can't be, a creator can't be sort of giving a 10-minute spiel on their understanding of their drawing process at the start of every video, because it would be monotonous and it wouldn't be helpful for the algorithm and for the channel. But there should be threads of it appearing. There should be references in parts, different parts, hopefully in different videos, that over time build a consistency, because it's either the same understanding for the whole time, or the understanding develops slightly video to video. And so perhaps if you watch a video from 2 or 3 years ago, it may be from a slightly different place, or aiming to go to a slightly different place to where the videos are going now, where the drawings are going now, and therefore the videos, or not. But it's not a big drop, not a big. This is about having the same voice, in a sense, voice in inverted commas. Not talking about who's actually doing the voiceover, but what the voice is saying and where it's coming from. And so, for instance, if you've been watching my channels at all, then my channel, my videos at all, then I talk about, I think of drawing as a translation process from one visual language into another. And the words I can use in the translated language depends on what I'm drawing with, because I can make different marks from different materials. And these are like different visual languages as well, because sometimes they can say things in a pretty similar way, and sometimes with one of them I can say things that I can't say with the other, or I can't say it in the same way. And so that's at the heart. So I'm looking at a visual reality of, say, weathered edges on the corner of an old block stone building. How do I say that? How do I say weathered? How do I convey the sense of this is stone that's been smoothed but is now looking a bit ordinary after 200 years exposed to the weather and to people moving past it and so forth. Um, and how will that look different to if the block was polished stainless steel and it was brand new? Exactly the same structure, but how do those edges change? How do I represent them using my tool? How do I represent them to say 200-year-old weathered stone or brand new polished stainless steel? What marks do I use? And so this is the translation process, but it's also, is it close or is it far away? And so we have all the atmospheric perspective issues as well. How do I draw the same tree, the same type of tree, but this tree is close and that tree is 500 meters or 50 meters down the road? Might be a better, might be a better. I probably can't see it at 500 meters. So how do I do that? It's my understanding of what I'm trying to do that will guide me in that. And if I have no understanding of the artist's understanding of the drawing process, then in a sense, every mark's just going to appear random. What I want to do is I want to understand what they're understanding, because just as what they're understanding guides their next marks, I need guidance of some sort for my next marks. Otherwise, everything's just random. Otherwise, I feel like I'm guessing every time I put the mark on the paper. I'm guessing, is this going to be the right thing? And if your drawing experience is that, if you feel like every mark is this leap into the dark and you have no idea how it's going to all come together at the end, then what you need is not mark making techniques. You don't need to learn how to crosshatch or draw straight lines. What you need is an understanding of, what am I doing? And there are as many different understandings as there are people doing it. But if videos don't even tell us that we need to develop this, then they're not being very helpful, because we feel like it's just a case of learning, I don't know, being able to hold our hand and to move it and to put whatever ink marks on the paper they've put. When even if I can do it perfectly, even if I can do it so that they couldn't tell the difference between their marks and mine, I still don't know when to do that from watching the video, even if I learn how to do it, because the when to do it comes from my understanding of drawing process. So is the video channel giving me a consistent understanding of a consistent way of thinking about drawing, and then of translating that through whatever I'm drawing with? Because that's going to be helpful. Not that I have to adopt that understanding, but I can use it as a starting point and then make changes as I want to move it in the direction of how I want my drawings to look. And this is where we see improvement overall in our drawing ability, rather than just perhaps one or two drawings that look good. Okay. And this is another point I haven't written down, but I just realized it. Does the drawing channel encourage me to copy their drawing? Now, it can encourage me to copy their drawing one of two ways. One is to literally step by step lead me to copy it. Draw this line. Now draw this line. Draw this curved line now between the two of them. Okay, does yours look like this? Now put dots in this corner for this reason. And now draw a flower down here, and now put a sun up in the sky, and blah, blah, blah. Until step by step, we've got a drawing that, if it's worked well, looks similar, if not the same as what's in the video. Well, at best, we've learned to copy. Now, copying is not a skill that we need when we're drawing original drawings. And original drawing, I include drawing from a photo, because I don't start with a photo. I have to do all the translation of the photo into marks on the paper. And that's the hard part. That's why I can get a much better result copying a drawing, because someone else has done that translation and I'm just copying their translation. I don't have to translate myself. and learning to do that translation is the hard part. But if the video is not telling me any of this, then I'm probably not understanding why this drawing looks so good. And I put it down to it was a good channel, it was a good episode, it was a good teaching session. When in fact, no, it's just that it hasn't taught me what I've wanted to learn. And it hasn't told me that it hasn't taught me. So now when I go to do a drawing myself, it doesn't turn out it didn't because I haven't learned how to translate. I've just learnt to copy. But now I blame myself that somehow I'm no good at this. I'm not ever going to be any good at this. I just can't do it. They're talented. I'm not. I should do something else. That's not true at all. It's just that I've been misled by the video to think that copying a drawing is equipping me to do my own drawings when it's not. They're two different skills. Such a big fan. Thank you, Ahmed. That's very kind of you to say. When I first started this channel, I got to say, I had, except my art Instagram account, I had no experience really of social media. I really didn't use it myself. But I had heard, about trolls and things, and I was a bit, I hope I don't hope no one's unkind. And I've just been really blown away by the relentless kindness that people put into words. So thank you. I do appreciate those comments. I really do, and they always don't so much take me by surprise anymore, but really do make me stop and just smile. And I really do appreciate it. Yeah, so does the video make clear the difference between just copying the drawing in the demo and equipping you to learn to draw yourself? And particularly when you can't combine that with not being able to see the reference, not even knowing if the artist is copying from a photo or from a drawing that they did earlier, or quite frankly, a drawing that someone else did earlier or not. What are we wanting to learn? We certainly can't go beyond what the teacher's teaching us at that point. And maybe they can't even do what it looks like they're doing the way they're doing it. We just don't know. But yes, copying something is not a way to learn how to draw originally. So, okay. Here's another question. What's the channel after? Is the channel trying to teach, or is the channel aiming to make money, or is the channel aiming for social media kind of exposure and success, or whatever? And, that's just another question to consider and to ask. Is it aiming to be entertaining more than teaching? If it's a channel after social media success, it's probably aiming to be entertaining, and there's nothing wrong with that. Goodness, we had boring teachers that didn't help us learn at school, I'm sure. But the question is the entertainment injection compromising the teaching? It certainly will take up time, because everything takes up time. A video is so many minutes. So, but what is the main thing the video is aiming at? Entertainment or teaching? And at the end of the day, it's, have I learned? Has it changed what I've been able to do? And certainly once we've been engaged with the channel for a while, that's the question we need to ask. Have I seen my drawing improve or not? Because that's really important. And in a sense, that's the proof of the pudding. Such a big fan. Thank you. Okay, Yarmon, do you got any tips for improving enjoying backgrounds and buildings perspective in general? Just starting, what are some ways to practice? Well, when people talk about backgrounds, my assumption is they're a cartoon artist, and so foregrounds, backgrounds is this really big difference. See, for me, I draw a scene, and while I do consciously, when I'm actually working out how I'm going to draw it, what I'm going to draw, I do consciously think, okay, foreground, but I also have midground and distance. And sometimes I might have 2 levels of midground, and I consciously think about my mark making for each of the different depths of plane in a different way. And this is how and sometimes I use different pens for different ones. But this is how one of the ways I create the effect of distance, of atmospheric perspective is the fancy phrase, but I just talk about it as the effect of distance, of making something look farther away, not just because it's smaller or not just because of perspective angles, but because I'm using every graphic technique I can to make something feel further away. So, but when people talk about backgrounds, then usually that's because they've got the important thing in the foreground, and usually it's figures doing all sorts of exciting and dramatic and extreme angled things, but you need stuff in the background. And I became, I guess, aware of this world because lots of people say, oh man, your videos really help me with my backgrounds. And I thought, with backgrounds, and I've come to understand what an important thing they are. And sometimes people say, oh, your backgrounds look like so-and-so's, and I look up so-and-so's, and yeah, it's just a whole new world that I've discovered that's been a lot of fun. Look, in the end, I mean, I don't know whether anything I would say would be helpful for you because I don't know what backgrounds you're trying to do. But I would say it depends on your foregrounds. I mean, it depends on what's happening in front. You certainly want a consistency of perspective. So if you're low to the ground looking up at figures, then your backgrounds, depending how far away they are, of course, but they also perhaps need to be a low to the ground looking up. So that's one thing. You certainly want unity, coherence, consistency in the perspectives. But you probably don't want your backgrounds to overwhelm your foregrounds. You probably want your figures, if I'm correct with the whole sort of cartoon thing premise, you want your figures to stay the main event. And so, yeah. And that will change from frame to frame. Not something I've ever had to do. Oh, just 1 minute. I have to go out in a minute. Just give me 10 seconds. Hello? Yeah, quick. I'm in the live stream. Oh. Yeah, okay. Well, I am ready now, so okay. All right, thanks. Bye. Sorry, that's my mother. But I'll probably have another phone call maybe before I finish, but I have to be picked up to be taken somewhere because my wife's away. I don't have a car. So, okay. Thanks for hanging on, everyone. Wrote a background, environment, scenes, landscape, rotoscoping. Nice seeing you again. Yes. Okay. Let me just check this. Framing photo experience. Okay. Look, the other question I need to ask myself, I think that's helpful. Goodness, I run out of the room to take a phone call, and I come back and there's more people watching than when I'm in the room talking. I'll just go outside and have another cup of coffee, will I? Okay. Look, I think this next point is helpful to ask is what's the experience of the person who I'm watching? Now, this isn't something, again, I'm going to get just from one video, but what have they done previously? Not so, and this is important too, because what they've done previously has equipped them for what they're doing now. So, if you like, it's their prerequisites for their. So what I do, what you see me do in a demo, flows from my experience. Now, although I look old, my drawing experience isn't nearly as old as my face or my head or the rest of me, because I haven't been drawing all my life. But some people have, good luck to them. I wish I'd organized my life better so that I had to, but but in a sense, it all flows in. But I did paint in oils. I did paint these sorts of things in oils for 10 years before I began to draw. And that's part of the flow of my experience. And if you like, that painting was my prerequisites. And really, when I began to do my drawing of foliage of trees, um, I was consciously drawing on that helped me to understand what I was trying to do and work out the best way to do that. So and so again, we need to realize that this isn't the artist's first drawing. And if it's my first drawing, even if I follow everything they say, mine's not going to look the same as theirs. And so I need to be aware of that. I need just to be thinking that in what I do. I've never had to try and find a channel. I've said before a few times in things that before I started my own channel, I'd only ever looked at YouTube videos for one thing, and that was how to tie a full Windsor knot. And I did that when I was going to a wedding, and I needed to do that. I needed a full Windsor knot, and I didn't know how to do it. And I don't go to many weddings or funerals these days, and so I can't remember from event to event, and so I have to keep looking up how to tie a full Windsor knot. I've bookmarked it so I can watch the same video now. And that was my experience of YouTube, how to do this videos. Whereas my wife, she would watch videos how to install your own reverse cycle split system air conditioning, and say, I think we can do it, Stephen. And I go, you're crazy. I can't do it. And of course, legally, you can't do it yourself in Australia anyway. But yes, we are chalk and cheese in some ways. So she's quite happy to look at how to do things, whereas I didn't have experience of watching the videos, and so I didn't really know what the rules were. But it is a thing, and we shouldn't listen to too many voices at the same time, because that can be confusing. And if we are watching a lot of different things, then we can actually be being misled and confused. We can actually be not someone could be saying one thing, which is a good thing to say for a certain outcome, but someone else is telling us, teaching us, demoing to us a different thing for a different outcome. And it's not obvious to us because of where we're at in our learning journey. It's not obvious to us what that they're contradictory, that we can do this one or we can do this one, but we can't do both of them and end up in a happy place. So that's another thing just to bear in mind as well. And we may not know at the start enough to see that clearly, but at least limiting the input to a few voices will help minimize that from happening. Would I consider doing videos on painting? Look, painting takes a long time. And it would be a lot more work in terms of just the videoing. I mean, I do a drawing. The drawing at most takes me an hour, but mostly it takes me 20 to 30 minutes, which I then, can speed up. I've got the hiccups now, that I can speed up. So to sort of, 10 to 12 to 14 minutes, I hope. So I don't know. It's a big thing. And I'm not sure I've developed my painting skills enough. And oil painting too, it's not very immediate. I'm still trying to learn watercolor, trying to start. The last 3 Januaries I've said, this year is the year I'm going to start trying to learn watercolor. Yeah, and now I think good luck to that. But anyway, we will see. But certainly there should be a time each year, if you've been watching a number of channels, where we actually review, is this channel worth continuing with? Has this channel helped me? And maybe do a bit of spring cleaning from our educational process. And maybe a channel really helped us for a season. It really helped us for a stage we were at, but maybe we've moved past the benefit of that channel, or we've changed our understanding of what we're doing to a place where, yeah, maybe it's not as relevant as it once was. And sometimes it's good just to recognize that. And here's to another year of no watercolor. Oh dear. Well, you made me laugh. Oh goodness. Goodness. Yeah. I know someone who is encouraging me just to do it would be very unhappy with that with that toast. Oh dear. Yeah. But I do think it's good to do like an audit of the channels that we watch and the input that we have. And yeah, a bit of tidying up, a bit of spring cleaning, a bit of focus. And as part of that, we ask ourselves, where am I up to? If I've been trying to find beginner videos, maybe I need to find a channel that aims a bit higher in the same direction as to where I'm going. Maybe that would be helpful for me, or whatever. Or I simply need to find a channel that's got a wide range of demo subjects, from simple to more complex. Generally, my demos are not sort of for beginners. But if you look at my playlists, I do have playlist videos that are pitched at beginners, or are pitched at, say, a wide range of simple everyday objects as well. So it's also exploring what a channel can offer. But yeah, working out, is this channel still helpful for the time, for the commitment? Because the time I spend watching this set of videos, I could be watching another set of videos, and maybe my drawing can develop faster, further where I want it to go with different input. So these are all helpful things. And it also helps me focus on, where am I trying to go? Like, how do I want my drawings to look? Do I want them to look more realistic or less realistic? Do I want them to look more dramatic or more subtle? And so forth. So it is helpful not to just keep doing, but to actually stop and ask questions of ourselves that will help us direct ourselves more. Love your work. Thank you. I find that shorts tend to perform better than longer form videos. Maybe algorithm, unless the longer form video is educationally formats. Thoughts? Well, my shorts, actually, just reminded me, I haven't posted my short this morning. I haven't. I've just got to work out the text, but I've got the video ready to go. In terms of views, look, a short that does well can do well faster. My best videos are all long form. I've had one video that's done 2.1 something million. Was very good for my channel, that one. And none of my shorts have, I think my best short's probably like 20,000, and that's only a couple. In terms of income, you make very, very little money from shorts unless you have millions of views. So, it's the shorts I do more just to keep the algorithm happy, and because, they're kind of fun too. And they don't take much time because of the sort of shorts I do. But you certainly, from making a bit of an income point of view, you certainly can't do that easily with shorts, not my shorts anyway. So you'd watch my watercolor videos. Well, look, if I ever do decide to sit down and do it, I will probably video my first effort, and if it's not too bad, I'll even make it into a video. What's up with the mess behind you? That's my life. Yep. Part of my problem is that I'll be making a video and I'll be thinking, where's that drawing? And suddenly I'm throwing, things up in the air, and trying to find things. I have a small area of look, I do clean it up, but it gets messy really quickly again. So yeah, short form videos about quality consumption per minute. Yep, I want to learn sketching. What should I do? Well, what sort of sketching do you want to learn? Do you want to be drawing, sketching in ink or in pencil? You know, start the way you want to finish, I would say. Oh, I need to take this. Sorry. Hello. Yeah, not too bad. I just need to keep it quick because I'm actually on a live thing, and I'm talking. So a live video thing. Yeah. Bruce Rowe. Bruce, the boy's name Bruce. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So how long before you think you'll be here? Okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, that'll be good. See you there. Yeah, bye. G'day. Sorry, that's a cousin I haven't seen for 50 years. So I just wanted to take the call. All right. Sorry, messy people are creative. Messy people are messy, yes. Fountain pen sketching. Okay. I keep meaning to buy a fountain pen when I'm in a shop that sells them because I think that would be fun to try. Well, look, there are some things that are common to drawing, and there are some things probably that are specific to fountain pens. So while I hope that my channel would have some helpful things, particularly the understanding of drawing process things, you'd also want to find someone who draws in watercolor, draws in fountain pens. And there's a guy, Marek Bad, who I follow on Instagram, who was one of the first other ink artists I engaged with. He draws with fountain pen, and there's a pen he uses, a nib. Is it Fug? Fug pens? Someone will know. But he gets an amazing range of marks from them. I think he gets a pair of pliers and he does something to the ends of them. And I think he is sponsored by them now, so they don't mind. But yeah. And he does watercolor too. But yeah, there will be channels that deal with that. So I would find some people who use the materials that you would like to use, because there are things you'll learn from them that you won't learn from people drawing with other materials. So yeah, but also, and this is the other thing I'd say, don't be a slave to any channel, to any teacher. Experiment. Try things out. This whole mindset that when I sit down with a bit of paper and a pen, I have to produce a drawing, an artwork, is an incredibly oppressive thing and unhelpful thing in learning to draw, because it makes us afraid of mistakes. And if we're already afraid of mistakes, it makes us more afraid of mistakes. Look, I'm afraid I really don't know anything about fountain pen nibs, so I don't know what you're talking about it. Yeah. Thanks, Oz. No, I've forgotten what I said. My brain doesn't seem to do multiple things at once anymore. What was I saying? Can anyone tell me? Oh, that's right. Don't be afraid to try things and to put into practice and to experiment with where I'm trying to go. I appreciate having nice good drawing every time you sketch. Yeah. I'm not a good teacher if everyone's drawings end up looking like mine. I'm a good teacher if I help you discover where you want to go faster, better, and help you get to a place with where you want to go faster and further than you would have left on your own. So I'm using, I do need another coffee. I'm using my voice to help you to help inform your voice, to help you find your voice. Just as a singing coach isn't trying to have the singer sing like them. They're trying to have the singer sing the best they can for what they have and what they want to do. And that's what I'd want to do. And that's what a good channel should be doing too. It should be equipping you to make your own drawings and for you to make them better than you would be able to make them if you hadn't watched the channel. But you do need to therefore step away from slavishly following. And just with my videos, my demo videos, I say this every kind of so often videos, but I'd say don't, if you want to draw the demo, and I think that's a very helpful thing to do. I do the demo, so I hope you draw it, and I post the reference photo, and there's a link to the reference photo in the video description, at least for the last 6 months worth of photos, or maybe it's even more. Whenever I discover that you could post a link to the reference, and that link is always there, even when you can't scroll back to find that video. The link will always take you to the video, but you can only scroll back so many posts. So just for that. What I suggest you do is you do not try and draw along with me, because that's not a good way of learning. I think you should watch the demo and pay really close attention to everything I say and what I do. Turn the video off, go to the demo, go to the reference and draw that. Do your drawing from the reference, not from my drawing and not with my drawing in view, because the temptation will be very strong to start to copy my drawing instead of making your own drawing from the reference, because the skill you want to learn is making your own drawing from a reference. And so it's going to be harder to get a good drawing doing that than if you just copy my drawing, but you won't learn the skill that you want to learn, that you're watching my channel to learn, if you just copy my drawing. You'll learn to copy. You won't learn to do the thinking that I've had to do, and that's the thinking that will let you draw anything in the future. Understanding, coming to an understanding, and piggybacking my understanding from that demo is a way of developing your own understanding, which may or may not look a lot like mine at the end of the day. And if it looks very similar to mine, good luck to you. That's why I'm giving it to you. But it will change in ways because you're not me. And those changes will make your drawing style look like your drawing style as opposed to mine. Where do you look for inspiration when you don't know what to draw? I just got back from 4 weeks in Europe and I took thousands of photos. So I just get my phone and I just scroll until I find one that's at the right level for time and commitment. So, I'm not going to do the front of Schönbrunn Palace. If I've got 10 minutes, I might find a little shrub to do, or a small little water fountain in the street or something. Or it partly depends if I have a thought of the lesson. If I want to do a lesson on drawing clouds, then I need to have a video with clouds, or I decide to do one with snow. And so I had to find one of the videos with snow. But, what if I like your style and want to learn it? Well, start watching my videos. But pay attention to when I explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I've got a few videos where I explain my understanding of my drawing process. And so I think they would be particularly helpful. And because knowing what I'm aiming to achieve is helpful. And I can't say everything in every video. So yeah, watch a range of videos and draw them. Don't just watch the videos, do the demo, do the drawing. Maybe not for every demo, but choose the ones. But I'd say for most videos you watch, do the drawing. Almost none of the drawings take me more than 30 minutes to do in real time, which probably means it shouldn't be taking you more than 60 minutes to do in real time. So an hour is all we need to find, and probably a bit less. But it probably will take you longer than it takes me, because you're not drawing every day the way I am. So yeah, that's just, and not experienced the way I am. But my speed did pick up as my confidence picked up. My confidence picked up as my results picked up. My results picked up as my understanding of what I was doing picked up. And one of the things that doing this stuff, this mark making, helps me do before I start the drawing, is it helps me visualize clearly what my finished drawing is going to look like. So when I start, I have a picture of how it's going to look at the end. That's quite detailed, because I'm working out the marks I'm going to put on the paper to create the effects that I want. And the marks are important as I jabber away. I mean, yesterday's video, we looked at the difference between the marks. Like this is one type of marks, this is another type of marks. Now, I knew when I drew this that these were the marks I was going to use to actually do my drawing, and these were the marks I was going to use to show you what I wouldn't do, but what many people end up doing, because we think drawing is to do with lines that accurately go around shapes, and we end up with a two-dimensional flat drawing instead of marks to create a certain visual effect. And the effect is more than the shape. The effect is a three-dimensional effect I want to create. And one of the problems with drawing from photos is photos take away three-dimensionality and flatten a scene, because a photo is from one lens, and we get three-dimensional form and appreciation of three dimensions from having two lenses that see something slightly different. And so I need to put the three dimensions back into my understanding of the drawing. And this is why, if our aim is to copy the drawing, well, we're going to end up with a very flat, at best, a very flat looking drawing, because our drawing will capture all the weaknesses of a photo as well as the strengths. What I want to do is to use the strengths of the photographic process, but to put the strengths that a drawing can put into it. And so can you see how when we have this understanding, sorry, a satin bowerbird just landed on the fence outside with something in his mouth, how our understanding of what I'm doing leads me to be able to do it more. So this was a drawing of a rock formation. And if you look at the top of the rock formation where we see trees behind it, yeah, how do we create the feel of the edges that we're seeing, and the difference between the edges that are closer and the edges further away? And how do we make a difference when it's all black lines between the trees in the distance and the rocks? How do we convey the direction, the movement, the curves of the rocks, and so forth? It's all through the choices that we make of the marks we put on the paper, whether they're lines or dots, whether they're at right angles, whether they're parallel, whether they're layered over the top of each other at different angles, or whether it's just a single line on the white paper. So, yeah. But understanding the different effects I can create with marks using whatever I draw with is clearly important. And then experimenting with how it looks. And this is why, if my focus is on having an artwork, it's going to be very limiting my ability to learn. I'm learning. Stop worrying about artworks. Stop worrying about how the drawing's going to look, and start to worry about what effects can I create with whatever I draw with. That's what we need to do. We need to be thinking about what effects can I create. And I create them by changing pens. I create them by, in the one drawing I mean, I create them by changing pressure. I create them by changing angle that I draw with. If I hold the pen like this, or like this. If I draw from my fingers or if I draw from my shoulder, all of these things change the way that the way the marks look, quite apart from where I actually place them. That all those things just physically change the way the ink looks on the paper. And then I can position them in different ways. I can crisscross them in different ways. Do I crisscross at 45 degrees? Do I crisscross at a very shallow angle? And how does it depend? What effect does that have on the marks, the lines already on the paper? Does it hide them, or does it let them still come through, and so forth? All of these things. And then it's also how much detail do I draw, and how do I do the edges, and blah, 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 blah. And all of these issues are dealt with in my videos, but they're not all in every video, or else it would be a one like 400-hour video, I suppose. Tips. Are you asking for tips? Because I think, yeah. I mean, look, I talk about tips, and I have tips in some of my thumbnails, but I actually think it's an unhelpful mentality, because we learn from understanding, and there really aren't any shortcuts. There are some helpful things. There are some helpful things to know so that I can incorporate them in what I do. But there really aren't any shortcuts. We do live in a very impatient society, says the old man, putting on his old man hat. And we all want to start yesterday, and we can now see what other people can do, and we want to be able to do it so that we can get the same results they get. And learning doesn't really happen that way. Some people learn faster than others for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it's access to better teaching. Sometimes before they started to learn the skill, they'd simply done stuff in their life that equipped them well for starting that skill. They were kind of doing prerequisite courses for this new skill without realizing it. And some people just have the mental energy, capacity, space in their brain because of the other things they're doing or not doing to go further, faster, and they make more commitment. And perhaps make some good choices about how they're going to do it more through luck than through consideration, but it works for them. So, again, we're at wherever we're at, and it works for us the way it works for us. Try it. Try it, the pen, and see how it looks, because that's the thing. Experiment. And see how it looks. Is it giving you the result you want? If it is, go with it. Play around with it more. If it's not, try something different. Do you feel looking at your work during the process with new eyes is helpful for the problem-solving aspect? Not so much in the drawing, because it happens fairly quickly, so the process is quite fast. But certainly when I finish the drawing, or when I'm doing, when I stand up and look down through the camera to turn it off, it's just my phone. The camera is just my phone. It just sits there like this above my drawing space. When I stand up to turn it off, I suddenly see my drawing, which isn't necessarily very big to begin with, but I suddenly see it this big, and that's like seeing it through new eyes. And you'd be amazed how many problems I see at that point, and go and get the pen out and try and make a few little adjustments just to change an angle or whatever. Make an area a little bit darker so it's a little clearer to read. So, but with painting, yes, when doing the big 6-foot canvases that I enjoyed doing, I would make a point of first thing in the morning, when I would see something for the first time in a day, I would very consciously walk in, take a deep breath, and look from a little distance back, because when you spend 6 hours or more up close doing something and moving back and forth, you do get very used to what you've done. And so the best I could do for fresh eyes was after having slept, okay, what's my first impression? Is it working? Is it not working? And that I found was a helpful way of doing it. Thoughts on 5-point perspective? I don't have any because I've never done it. And I really enjoy some artists who do and who play around with distorted perspective in general. I follow a few people on Instagram whose names I couldn't tell you. Steve Zollin, New York artist, I think, because I think most of the scenes in New York, so I assume he lives there. So yeah, wonderful distortions. But I don't want to draw it particularly myself at this point, but I reserve the right to change my mind. I've spent a lot of my life changing my mind, so I reserve the right to change it. But right now, I'm having fun and I feel like I'm still learning the things I'm learning. You know, when I first started doing this drawing, it was all architectural and with the odd tree. And then I decided that the challenge of the Australian bush, which is all around me where I live, was something that I wanted to learn how to do that with pen and the challenge of that. And so that's been exciting. And yeah, maybe it's time for watercolor. Maybe it's time for a new challenge. Understanding shadowing is too difficult. I can't decide how much darkness do I need. Well, there's no answer to how much darkness you need. It depends on every drawing, what that drawing is about and how you want that drawing to work. The more I draw, the more I make darker areas darker and lighter areas lighter for all sorts of reasons, because it can give clarity. Darker areas showcase certain areas more and provides greater contrast if we have a lot of white areas as well. If you want to do a sunny day and you want to get the effect of bright sunlight, the best way to do that is to have white areas of paper showing through clearly right next to almost black areas of paper. And that will, because the white will look whiter, which has the effect in our drawing of the sunlight looking and feeling brighter than I'm just wondering whether, see, this is why everything's such a mess, because when I do these sessions, I'm grabbing things, trying to find things. I'm just wondering whether I can, in this book, whether I've got what I'm looking for. Well, it's not what I was looking for, but it'll do. Now, this isn't with hatching, of course. This is with sketch marking. But this was a really, really hot, high summer's day in Montmartre, and the stone was all white or very pale, and the shadows were deep. And so a contrast between dark and light creates the feel of it being sunny. Like, we know this was a bright, sunny day. And if I were doing this now, this drawing is a few years old, I would make the darks darker. I've become bolder in doing that. Now with hatching, of course, it's not quite as simple as sketch marker, and not as quick anyway. And I started doing my shadows with sketch marker, but at some point I decided I simply wanted to learn how to hatch better, and I'm glad I did. You know, they're not as dark as I do them now. And certainly, I mean, if we look at this was also a bright sunny day, totally different scene. This is in Sydney, but again, very dark, very light, and you do get the sense of sunny day. But I had to make sure I preserved enough white to do that. Yeah, well, in the other one, it was really just the people really that was sort of dark. But I feel this also has and so, you know, the sunlight, the sunlight, the sunlight keeping, and then really dark, and even down here is sort of dark enough, I think, in comparison to the sunlight. And the contrast between these two sandstone gateposts. So, but then I didn't want to go as dark in the background. Well, this one's actually in sunlight anyway, because dark also comes forward. So I needed to keep the background. So this is the closest thing we can see. It's in shadow and it's close, so it's darkest. Yeah. So by manipulating the lights and darks, we can create create different light effects that whether we crosshatch or not. If you haven't seen my video on 10 ways I use crosshatching, then I think it's my best crosshatching video. So if you just in my channel search for 10 ways, it'll come up. It's sort of got a green background, the thumbnail. And I think if you struggle with crosshatching, I think it's a really, really helpful, important. I think it's one of my most important videos, in fact, just because it says a lot in a short period about hatching. If we understand the ways we can use hatching, the different effects we can create and how we can use those in our drawings compositionally, it really guides us into how to crosshatch in a given place. So yeah, in the end, it's not about patterns. It's about understanding the effects we can create with it. Thoughts on drawing digitally? Yeah, I've got friends who do that and they do amazing things. You know, I don't know that I'll ever get around to doing it. I'll certainly do watercolor before I do digital art, so maybe I'll never do it. But if you want to, run with it. Like, why wouldn't you? Especially if you're not as old as me. Why wouldn't you? You know, yeah, for all sorts of reasons. So go for it. Go for it. It's certainly accessible. You can sit and do it on a train much more easily. I read somewhere that the image should be roughly broken up 75% white, 25% black, or the other way around. Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know, but you know, it's the balance and where it is and how it is and what the scene is saying. Yeah, but certainly control it. And so we can't know how dark the darks. We know that the lightest part's going to be white paper, but we don't know how dark the darks are going to be at the start. So don't like do a drawing from one corner and finish it all the way down. Build the whole scene, and then particularly with the values with the lights and darks, darken the darks altogether, because how dark one part needs to be will depend on how dark something else is, because this part will need to be lighter or darker than this part. So until I've done the other part, I don't really know. So with values, we do a lot of value work at the end, a lot of hatching of the darken in some areas. Or the other thing I do is the areas I think are going to be the lightest hatching, I don't hatch at all until I've done the darker parts. And that helps me not make them too dark. Helps me choose the best pens and so forth. Look, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to have to go, guys. I've got some things on this morning from the two phone messages. Thanks for your patience with that. I will need to go. So please hit the like button if you haven't already. And any thoughts you have on choosing the drawing channel for you or the drawing channels for you that have been helpful, love to have them as a comment. So thanks for those likes. And I'll see you next time. Or any ideas for live sessions for what discussion? Have I ever tried to draw the sea? I think, yes, that's one of those drawings that never made it to a video that I talked about earlier in the session. So if you were there for that. Yeah. Okay. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to go now and just be ready to leave when my lift arrives. And but thank you for being here, and see you next time. Bye.